Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Adrienne from Jarrett Digital. I'm a Showit website designer and today we are going to be talking about 7 reasons why you should have an aesthetic website and what that kind of means. So an aesthetic website is kind of hard to specifically be like that one's aesthetic and that one's not. It does depend on the style, and an aesthetic is going to mean different people. For example, some people are really drawn to like a minimalist style and other people like very edgy. That's what they want. But style aside, there are certain aspects of the website that some people would deem more aesthetic than others. So the first reason that we want an aesthetic website is that first impressions count. Within the first few seconds of someone landing on your site, they are going to be starting to judge it, and you want to come across in a certain way. So you want them to judge it that way and keep scrolling and trust you and want to learn more. So that is one really big reason why humans, we just naturally do it. We will judge people within a few seconds of seeing them, and we do the same thing for sites. So interestingly, there have been a couple ways that studies have found to specifically determine what people appeal to them as being aesthetic, regardless of style. One of these is that monotone color family, so like all yellows or all blues or all reds, sort of tonal colors. People generally seem to assume these as being more aesthetic visually for them. Another thing is using a really large image. People see that as being very aesthetic. So using quite a big header image, bigger text, making it really easy to see what they're seeing. Those things are very classed as very aesthetic to people. But trick with this is that websites that have even images and text tend to be more memorable. So it's sort of finding this balance of aesthetic and memorable, and you can do that in many different ways throughout your website, and it depends on which areas you're focusing. So for example, you're above the fold section, the first place they land on, you want that to be very aesthetic because they're going to go and scroll, and then maybe it's more of these even amounts of text and images for when you're describing your services, because you want those bits to really stand out and stick into mind. Number 2 is sparking curiosity, and I just did touch on this a little bit when I said you want that nice aesthetic header so that then people want to scroll more. You really want them to be engaged and learn more about your website. So curiosity is a really important part of human nature. We really want curious about our businesses and to really get excited a little bit, and you can cue them in with copy and the way you design it. So when it comes to curiosity, simpler layouts generally work more effective than something that's really busy. And there's obviously different ways of balancing this in design, but usually when we're thinking about aesthetics and when you ask people about aesthetics, they find that something simpler is going to really help them want to learn more than something cluttered. You can think about this for yourself as well. Like if you go and it's a website and it's just full of text and it's not a blog post, you're not expecting to read it. It's like someone's homepage and it's just bodies of text. Is that spark curiosity that you want to read it, or do you just go eh? But if it's like simpler, there's less text, there's more likely chances that people are going to see things that you are interested in them seeing, and once they read that little nugget, then they're like, oh, I'll read this next little nugget, and then I'll read that next, and so on and so forth. So really picking out the bits that are the most important, simplifying your designs is going to create for an aesthetic design and really draw people in. Number 3, it builds trust. So this is a really vital one for every single business on the planet. If you're not building trust with your people, then you're not really building anything. There have been studies that found that trust is a super important factor in e-commerce. That's like a really big one that's been studied, but obviously this is not the only business that it's important for. So that people perceive the trust factor through the design of a website really impacts on whether someone is going to buy or not. This is also really important in a mobile screen. So often the trust comes through the design in ways of, is it easy to use? Is it clear? Do I know what I want? Do I get all the information that I need? So when we think of these things of aesthetics, it's not just about making something beautiful for the fact that it is beautiful. It is about making something that's easy to use and straightforward and clear And people perceive that as being aesthetic and beautiful when they know what they want from it, when they know what it's offering them, and when it's easy to use. Number 4 is that it encourages repeat visitors. If you've got something that's really beautiful and really memorable and really gave them a great experience and they wanted to learn more and you sparked all that curiosity and you built that trust, people are going to want to come back. And traffic's one of the hardest things to generate in the online world. So if you can get someone onto your site, you did a lot of work to get them there. If you can get them to come back again, then that's going to be so much easier than convincing a complete stranger to keep coming onto your site. If you're going for that method, you're going to need so much more traffic on your site to get the result you want, rather than once you get some people, you nurture them, you really utilize your design, you utilize all of these different factors about your brand to make them really curious, want to learn more, really love your brand, and really want to engage with it, and they'll keep coming back and checking on things. Another way to do this is through content utility. So if you want people to keep returning to your website, make new content all the time. This is where you have like a blog, for example, because otherwise, why are they coming back again? What's in it for them? What's drawing them back to your website? Just having a beautiful site alone is probably not going to do it unless you're a designer like me and you want to go and check out their design and be a little bit of a fangirl about it again. But like, why are they coming back, and how can you sort of build that customer journey and think about that as your funnel throughout the whole process of them visiting? Okay, so number 5 is that it builds emotion with people, and it builds an emotional connection through design. So we all have like our own little design style and things that we find aesthetic and what we're drawn to. I sort of mentioned that at the start. Utilizing design in this way helps you build a tribe and helps you build an emotional connection with other people that like your style. Not everyone is going to like my style. I am not the designer for everyone, and that's okay. I wouldn't want to be the designer for everyone. I want to design in a style that serves businesses that really connect with me, because it's going to be more fun to work with them and we're going to have a greater experience. And then because we have a similar style and we connect, we are going to be able to connect with people that their tribe has a similar style and a similar personality and all of that kind of thing. And how you do this, it's really complicated, but one of them is through color. So color all has like different kind of emotions tied to it. We feel different things. So utilizing color really wisely on your website, rather than being like, that's my favorite color, I really want to use that. Choose colors that will build an emotional connection with your audience. For example, blues are often really strong trust. Yellows, happy. So I do have a color guide. I will link to that below if you want to learn a little bit more about color and how to choose color for your brand to help build this emotional connection. This isn't the only way though. Obviously your fonts are going to build an emotional connection as well, again through that style, the elements that you use, the way you write your copy. Is it fun and bubbly, or is it more serious and professional? Is it very calming and like relaxing? Like all of these things are going to contribute to the aesthetic of your website and contribute to how people feel when they visit you. All right, so next up we have it ensures effective communication. So I have already touched on this a little bit as well. When it's simpler, it's going to spark curiosity. People will build more trust from it and all of that. So the way you design it and the way it's more aesthetic, for example, image, text versus text, or image and then all text, that is going to affect how it looks, how people feel when they look at it, and it's going to affect the way that they're going to read and how they're going to engage with your content. People actually judge the aesthetics based on the communication fact. So we might think of aesthetics initially as just like a beautiful website and the colors and the typography and all of that kind of thing. But when they are actually doing studies on how people perceive websites from a visual perspective, a lot of the feedback that comes back first is about usability and the clear communication and all of that kind of thing. So these very seemingly practical user experience things are actually really closely linked to how people judge the aesthetics of something. So you can have the most beautiful website in the world, but if it's very complicated and nobody really knows how to use it and it's got all these fancy things that are moving around. I saw a website very recently like this, and it was like beautiful and stunning, and it did tell people what they did, but it had a very like fun code the way you scrolled throughout the website. So it sort of like scrolled down and across, and I'm a website designer and I found it quite confusing to navigate. I just didn't know where I was supposed to be clicking, and I was clicking places I thought that it was meant to take me down, and it just wasn't doing anything. And for me, that definitely applies into the aesthetics. Like, it looks really beautiful, but it was poor usability, and I'm just gonna leave straight away. And then the communication wasn't on point because I didn't know how to use the site. So these two things are really closely tied. This also would apply to things like having your mobile very responsive. Most people are looking on their mobile phones now. This is one thing I really like about Showit, because the mobile and the desktop are completely independently designed. So you can create a really unique experience on mobile rather than it just kind of automatically shifting across and maybe things don't look quite right. Again, it's usability, and then that just like overflows into how people feel it looks as well. So your perception of how beautiful it is drops down as soon as you can't use it anymore in the digital world, which I think is really interesting and says a lot about humans, how we interact with our digital world in general. And last but not least, it influences purchasing behavior. So we have covered this a few already in the above ones, but this is really important. If people perceive your website to be aesthetic, they have built that emotional connection with it, they trust it, they think it looks really great and everything works well and the communication is there, they might go with that even if your prices are more than a similar product, but the website just isn't as good and they don't think it's as pretty and it didn't give them the experience. Think about our websites like when you walk into a store. You walk into like a beautiful boutique store and you might be more likely to buy some of the things that you would otherwise think overpriced, like that notebook or something. You could get a similar one at Kmart for $2, but this is like a beautiful notebook, and the whole experience of the store, the ambience, you want to be involved in that, and it's going to help increase your chances of purchasing or reaching out to see if you want to inquire to work with this person. Like, it's the whole vibe, you know? So that's why having a really aesthetic website is really important, because ultimately you're in business to make money, and if you are not selling those products or not booking those clients, you've got a hobby. So having a really beautiful aesthetic website that does all of these things, that communicates really well, is really going to help you increase the ROI in your business. And before I go, I have one little tip. So there is a study that looked at the type of imagery websites used and then the purchasing behavior of people based on those images. And they found that when businesses used nature sort of based images, whether it's like in the background or some kind of nature theme on the website, that actually increased people's purchasing behavior, and they were more likely to buy from websites that had that connection with nature, which I find so interesting. And I love that. I'm an ecologist, in case you don't know me. So my background is in ecology. I love nature. I love trees. I love animals. I love everything possible. And it makes so much sense to me, because we as humans physically change when we are out in nature. And even if we're looking in nature, we are more likely to heal faster if we are in a hospital room and we can see outside and see trees or see plants around us than if we are looking at a concrete board somewhere. There are so many studies on this in terms of how we connect with nature, and I'll put a link to a book, The Nature Effect. Nothing to do with business at all, but it is a lot of how humans need nature and how we physically change our bodies and our minds mindset as well when we are in these natural settings. So it does really make sense to me that including that in site does help people with connection and build trust and increase the chance of them buying. So I hope this was really helpful, and I've convinced you why you need to either get or create or go and check out your website and see if it is aesthetic. Maybe if you already have a website, ask some people that you know will give you some honest opinion and that they will tell you, do they think your website is aesthetic? Is it usable? Do they trust it? All of those good things back always helps us improve. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button if you did, and make sure you subscribe to my channel to get more website tips. See you next time.